introduction of how, our ancestors got kicked up out the kingdom. One of the things I touched on that I'm going to dive more into this time was persuasive words, the power of the tongue. I think that, pretty much right now, we're still going through that. I think that it's a very big issue, and people really need to understand that, not having your foundation set can get you killed, figuratively and literally, especially in this walk. So we're going to take a little look at that. But before we do that, let's go ahead and get into a little lesson review since it's been a while. So, let's see. What is the truth according to Scripture? Can anybody give me an answer? Anybody but Moray? Anybody? Mute his mic.
The word.
It's the word. Okay. Anybody got anything else?
Yahuah said he's the truth.
Okay. All right. So we're going to bring up a couple little definitions right there. You got all of the same thing is, I think this is the most popular one that everybody understands is Psalms 119, 142. Your righteousness is a righteousness forever, and your Torah is truth. So the other two are just different versions of it. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is truth. And your righteousness is a righteousness forever, and your law is truth. All right. So just to give a couple of brief little definitions on there, something that helps you maintain your foundation. We got stability, establishment, firmness, and faithfulness. And we can see that, so we know that the truth is a structural foundation for which our faith is based on. Without these laws, statutes, and commandments, our faith wouldn't be established. There wouldn't be a base for which our faith could stand firm on. You wouldn't have anything to stand for. You wouldn't be able to witness to anybody, when it comes through the word, because you have no background in it, right? So it's very, very, very important that we have a foundation based in the truth, right? All right. So let's get it started. So, in our first lesson, we talked about how our ancestors turned away from the Father's word. We also found out that just how as a father disciplines his children, our ancestors were disciplined for disobeying the Father's word. We also talked about how today we are still being disobedient when it comes to the Father's word. So we're going to pay just a little bit more attention to that. So, what happened? What happened that made us turn away from the Father's word? We became wayward. We turned aside in our thought process. And I have here our thought process in which ideas, words, or images suggest other ideas in a sequence. Construction, mental synthesis, the creation of a construct, the process of combining ideas in a congruous, which is being in an agreement of thought. Somebody say one thing, they sit there and say it to you, like, yeah, you're right. I do that. That's being in agreement with the thought, right? Of object thought, abstract thought, logical thinking, reasoning, thinking that is coherent and logical. So, my next question will be, what is an abstract thought? Can anybody give me an example of that?
Sure.
Anybody but Moray, please. Man, have your finger ready on that mute button. Go ahead, you use the mic right there. I'm playing Moray. You can interrupt me anytime you want to.
Abnormal.
Abnormal? Okay. Anybody get anything different? Go ahead, Caleb.
Something that can't be touched, felt, seen, something that's hard to really, in a concrete way, something that anybody can look at, and I can think one thing and you can think another because there's no definite definition for it.
Because there's
no
nothing there
form.
to keep it to keep it firm, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So abstract thinking is the ability to think about objects, principles, and ideas that are not physically present. It is related to symbolic thinking, which uses a substitution of a symbol for an object or idea. A variety of everyday behaviors constitute abstract thinking. So when we think about this walk, and we think about the doctrines that are out there, how can that be used in an abstract environment? Anybody? No worries. We're going to keep it going. Is that y'all remember? You should not add to the word that I command you, nor take away from it, that you may keep the commands of Yahuah Yah Elohim that I command you. How about that? So people are adding on to the doctrines, right? People are adding on to the Father's word. So they ain't even got to do with the Father's word, right? Okay. A little slow here. Keep it moving. All right, so let me ask you this question. Is this a true statement right here? God hates the sin but loves the sinner. That's that church needs right there.
Oh, no, that ain't true. He's angry with the wicked daily, it says.
That's right. So we know that sin is what? It's transgression of the law. So what is the law? It's
The
what?
law, statutes, and commandments.
That's right. It's instructions, right? Or the Torah. So let me ask you another question. Is there a difference between the commandments versus the instructions?
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Would you like to go? Oh.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mo Ray. I appreciate it. All right. So commandments versus instructions. Commandments need instructions, right? Instructions are a direction of order. They give detailed information telling how something should be done, operated, or assembled. In other words, the commandments are what you actually do, versus the instructions which tell you what to do. All right? So let's play this little bit of a game and see. Let's see if y'all can get this, okay? Oh yeah, I might have to go there to the pointer. So tell me, if this is the instruction or the commandment, remember the Shabbat day to keep it set apart. Is that the commandment or is that the instruction?
Commandment.
More Yasharon.
Hey, he's fast with the button.
My goodness.
Yeah. Before I can get to him, you already
He been waiting for this all week, haven't he? Okay, well, they said it before, Moray, Lamad. Okay. All right, so if that is the commandment, then what is the instruction?
To keep it set apart. Is that word keep the same word as like, what's that? Can you think of it now? The word keep is guard.
Correct. Yes, it is the same. Yes, it's the same thing. All right, so we'll see the instructions as being what? 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. Didn't we just read this?
how to do it.
Yeah. So those are the instructions, right? All right.
It's like rules and procedures, pretty much.
Yes. You want to say that in the mic, huh? I don't think everybody heard you, huh? Say it in the mic.
It's like rules and procedures. I was saying it's like rules and procedures for things.
All right, she said it 5 times. Rules and procedures. All right, so I don't know if it was the last week or the week before last, Morey Yasharon went over, these different things that basically add up to what instructions are. We have Yara, which is to flow as water. But we mainly want to look at the close to the bottom of it where it says to teach. On there, being a teacher, teaching. And we have the verse right there, Yahuah. Oh, there you go. Okay. Oh, no. Yeah, I'm too fast, huh? Yahuah said to Moses, "Come up to me on the mountain and wait there that I may give you the tablets of stone, which the law and the commandment, which I have written for their instruction." Right? Am I going too fast? Let me know. You can stop me at any time besides Moray. All right, so the next thing we have is Torah. It's a precept or a statute. We all know that. Because Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. Good and upright is Yahuah, therefore he instructs sinners in their way. And he kept on going, and we had mitzvah right there, which is what? The actual command. A command, whether human or divine, commandment, law, ordinance, or precept. You should diligently keep the commandment of Yahuah your Elohim and his testimonies and his statutes which he has commanded you. Know therefore that Yahuah your Elohim is Elohim, the faithful Elohim, who keeps covenant and steadfast love with those who love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. So therefore, you have to do something, right? So that's the commandment. You actually have to do something in order to get favor from him. All right? And he repays their faith to those who hate him by destroying them. He will not be slack with one who hates him. He will repay him to his face. You shall therefore be careful to do the commandment and the statutes and the rules that I command you today. The whole commandment that I command you today, you shall be careful to do. You see the pattern here? It's something that you got to do, right? Someone's going to say something? Online? Okay. The whole commandment that I command you today, you shall be careful to do, that you may live and multiply, and go in and possess the land that Yahuah swore to give your fathers. So you shall keep the commandments of Yahuah your Elohim by walking in his ways and by fearing him. All right. So when you got all these commandments, you're going to need somebody to teach it to you. Therefore, we have here Moreh. Then you, all right, it has also a teacher or teaching, also the early rain. He opens their ears to instructions and commands that they return from iniquity. So this all points you in the right direction of thought and leaves no room for abstract thinking. When you're doing the Father's commandments, you have no time to think about what is or what could be when it comes to the Father's word, because his word is the law, right? All right. So the whole thing that Yahuah hates, the sin only, is false. All of this has to do everything to do with obedience. When you start acting upon the verb, which is action, which is what? Keeping his commandments, that takes away the abstract state of mind. You are no longer thinking what could be or what I think it should be. It's only what Yahuah says it is. Usually by today's standards, we generally don't put the Father first. We tend to rationalize a thought or come up with a plan of action ourselves instead of thinking of him first. Somebody give me an example of doing that? What would you do in time of need? Something that you should have been doing all along? Father, I know I should have been praying for this, but right now I need you. Is that not doing it? Right. All right. Where is I at? Yeah, I see it. It's not until things really go downhill that we tend to get on our knees and pray for that elusive miracle. When we do this, we are putting ourselves, our wants, and our needs in front of the Father. All of that should come second to the praise and esteem we should be giving him. All right. So we're going to get into the lesson here. Persuasive words. Words that hold power to persuade. Proverbs 21, with her fair speech she caused him to yield. With the flattering of her lips she forced him. So last time when I did this, we did an example of the garden. We went there. So let's go back there again. Start there. We started mixing our own doctrine with the Father's truth. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which Yahuah Elohim had made. And he said unto the woman, ye have Elohim said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, but the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, Elohim hath said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall you touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die, for Elohim doth know that in the day ye eat therefore, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as Elohim is knowing good and evil.
Adam and Eve look different in this picture.
That was the only one I could find. Okay.
Okay.
Just a reference picture, we know what it's talking about. All right. Boy, I need to go there and sit behind the monitor again. Okay. So we see an example in Genesis 3 where the serpent used Eve's own words against her in order to trick her into eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. She broke one of the most important instructions the Father gave us, which was not to add or take away from His word. What are some examples of things added or taken away from the word that y'all can think of?
She said that we're not also to touch it, or she was not supposed to touch it. That's not what he said.
That's correct. Well, what are some modern things? What are some things that are going on right now that you can associate with that?
How about the idea of Sunday being Sabbath? Because I just really realized it probably when we got together, because I was going to the Christian church, so I always believed that Sabbath was Sunday.
Hallelujah. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Oh, and what about you shall not surely die? Um,
That's where we get like reincarnation doctrine. You know, you're not gonna die. You'll come back as a eagle. You never see anybody coming back as a cockroach or anything like that. But they're always gonna come back like an eagle or something beautiful and grand. You know, there's no hell. There's no eternal punishment. You're not gonna die. So there's no consequences basically for what you do wrong and doing against Yahuwah's Torah. That lie can actually be stretched out in many different ways, but it's all the same lie. It just has a different set of clothing on it.
even if you sin, you shall not surely die. Not surely. Even if you sin by disobeying the Father's words, you shall not surely die. This is what the serpent is saying. And we know that the Father hates sin.
Yep. And he punishes it.
Well, would that go along with the once saved, always saved?
Yep. That's another root of that doctrine.
That is another good example. Speaking of clothes, what about women can't wear pants?
What was that?
What about women can't wear pants? Which wouldn't really make any sense, because everybody back there didn't wear pants, did they? Everybody had on the same thing pretty much. Everybody had on a tunic. So, what you say? Huh? Jerusalem is in South Africa. Yeah, that's it too. All right, so what talked to Eve in the garden that turned her focus from the Father's instructions? It's a big old picture to sit up there and give you a hint. Answer me now. Come on. Okay, the serpent. All right. Even Maury didn't answer that one. What's going on? He can turn off his mic finally. All right. So we see here, age 5175, Nakash, a snake from his hiss, a serpent. We got 5172, Nakash to hiss, i.e. whisper a magic spell to prognosticate, certainly divine enchantment learned by experience. All right. Yeah. So what does prognosticate mean? It means to foretell or prophesy an event in the future. Well, what was Yoko saying? And the serpent said unto the woman, "Ye should not surely die."
Right? Absolutely.
So you know what I found? I found something interesting. That word serpent is also the word used when Aaron threw his rod down in front of Paro and it turned into a serpent. But unfortunately, that's not the word that's used there. It's a completely different word that it turned into. It didn't turn into a snake, his rod. I think the word is the same word. It means like a large water animal. Could have been like a crocodile, more than likely. But the word that is translated as serpent when he threw the rod down is not Nahash or any of those words there. It's a completely different word.
Well, I tell you what, you look that up, you let us know.
Okay.
I don't mean later. Go ahead and look that up right now.
Yes. Maury, could you speak louder in the microphone?
My mic not loud enough? Hold on, let me switch it.
Got it. Peter, he sounds very distant.
I got you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Are you hearing me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you. I can hear you clear. Thank you.
All right.
Wow.
So another example would be Numbers 16, 1 through 35. It should be, not 34. But this is where your foundation comes into play. If it's not set, then you will believe what someone else has to say. You will have no discernment in the matter. So if your foundation is not set, somebody can tell you anything, you believe it, right? And haven't we seen that today? I don't want to call out nobody, but you go to different camps, telling you things that pretty much they're just basically mixing their doctrine in with the word, right? And they're getting people in by the droves because they don't know nothing, right? You're fresh off into this thing, and if you're getting somebody that's not ready to help you out with your salvation, this is what you get, right? So I believe this is what happened in this, and we're going to read this. This is Korah's rebellion. Does anybody have any synopsis of Korah's rebellion, what it might be about, before I get started? Caleb? I know Caleb do. Huh? You need a mic? You need a mic?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, he needs a mic. I'm going to pick on him all day.
Since I was picked,
Mm-hmm.
Korah basically rebelled against Moses, saying that he should lead the people either back into Egypt or to the Promised Land. I can't remember which one. But Yah basically had him set up something where, okay, if I pick Korah, then y'all will know. If I pick Moses, you'll know. But if I pick Moses, Korah's going to fall into the earth, all his stuff. And before Moses even got done speaking, Korah just fell on the ground and all his stuff. And then the earth just closed back up on him.
Thank you, Mr. Encyclopedia. I appreciate it. All right, so let's get it going. This is the ESV version because I don't like saying doth, thou, he'll, whereth, feweth all the time, okay? All right, so now Korah, the son of Issachar, son of Kohath, son of Levi, Datan, and Abram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Pelet, son of Reuben, took men. So just like Keller was saying, Korah had this idea in his head that, hey, I don't know why Moses and Aaron are sitting up here ruling over us. So he decided he was going to get people that was going to be in cahoots with him. So that word Congress, to agreement and have harmony in one's thinking, that applies here, He had a thought. He said, let me put this thought to two other people, see what they think. So now they're saying, yeah, I feel the same way. So let's keep on going. See, and then they rose up before Moses with a number of people of Israel. So now, all three of them started talking to each other and said, well, maybe we ought to ask somebody else if they feel the same way. So what did they do? They started talking, and they started picking up other people. 250 chiefs of the congregation chosen from the assembly. So these weren't just run-of-the-mill people from the assembly. These were leaders, people who were supposed to have their foundation set, right? That's why they were chosen. So you see how easy just a word or a phrase or a sentence can turn your whole thinking around. Where you think that you might be saying something, look what happened. All right? So that's why I want everybody to understand when I'm doing this persuasive word thing, the power of the tongue is very, very serious. And Maury Yasharon talked about now we need to come together and start getting things in order. When you can't do that if not everybody's on the same page. If everybody's foundation is not set, we're always going to have this order and it's never going to get right. So we're still going to be stuck here and everybody keep asking why Yahuah hasn't stepped in yet. Well, look what's going on. We can't get on the same page. All right? All right. I hope I ain't scaring nobody. Well-known men, they assembled themselves together against Moses and against Aaron and said to them, you have gone too far from in the congregation for all in the congregation are set apart, every one of them, and Yahuah is among them. Why then do you exalt yourselves above the assembly of Yahuah? And when Moses heard it, he fell on his face. So we all know how Moses get when people start saying stuff. The man gets mad. He gets very mad, but he wasn't mad at this part, right? He fell on his face. Anybody tell me why he might have fell on his face instead of getting angry all of a sudden?
Because he humbled himself before the Most High. He humbled himself. He could, to listen. He didn't want to let his temper get in to take over really what he was, what he wanted to say. He was like, I'm going to humble myself. I'm going to listen. I'm going to bow down before the Most High. I'm going to humble myself before the Most High.
Hmm. That's a good one. Well, let me put another bug in here. Remember back when they were in Mount Sinai, they was over the mountain, it was thunder and lightning, and they heard the horns, and the ground was shaking, and they were like, Moses, we'll talk to you, but you're going to have to talk to the Father because we're afraid. Remember that? So you're going to go from that to saying, why you over us now? Why you was over us and over you? See, you see what I'm saying? See, he's upset, but he's not going to go there yet. Because he remembers that. He's like, y'all were just telling me that you want to be in charge, and now all of a sudden there's a problem. All right? Okay. And he said to Korah and all his company, in the morning Yahuah will show who he is and who is set apart, and will bring him near to him. The one whom he chooses, he will bring near to him. Do this. Take censers, Korah and all his company. Put fire in them and put incense on them before Yahuah tomorrow. And the man whom Yahuah chooses shall be the set apart one. And you can just imagine, he'll walk away from it, and then he come back and he says, wait a minute, you have gone too far, sons of Levi. And Moses said to Korah, hear now, you sons of Levi, is it too small a thing for you that the Elohim of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel, to bring you near to him, to himself, to do the service in the tabernacle of Yahuah, and to stand before the congregation to minister to them? So what is he saying there? Why would he say that to the Levites?
He's saying, isn't it enough that he's brought you already before, but still you want more?
Yeah, he already separated you from everybody and put you inside his tabernacle. Not everybody can go there. They have esteem, right? And therefore now you want more? What else do you want? All right. What is Aaron that you grumble against him? I'll skip a part of that, we get right there. Therefore, it's against Yahuah that you shall come to the company and have gathered together. Okay, so what is Aaron that you have grumbled against him? What is he saying there? He said, well, what did Aaron do? All right? So not only you have a problem with me, you got a problem with the priest now.
I think all in all, they have a problem with the Most High.
That's exactly
because
what it is.
Aaron and Moses are doing exactly what the Most High wants them to do. So, and ultimately, they have a problem with the Most High. They don't like who the Most High is put in charge. So when they're arguing against Moshe and Aaron, they're arguing with and against the Most High. But he's gonna fix that real quick, fast, in a hurry.
Oh yeah, I'm getting there. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And Moses sent to call Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and they said, we will not come up. So now you're going to talk all that mess to Moses and Aaron, but now you don't want to face him when he calls you out. Ain't that how it go? Is it a small thing that you have brought us out of the land of flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you must also make yourself a prince over us? So just like the sister said, they don't really have a problem with Moses and Aaron. They're mad at the fact that the Father took him out of something that they were comfortable in. Right? So therefore, when Korah sit up there and put that word in their mouth, he wants to make it seem like it's Moses and Aaron, but really they don't have the problem with them. They have the problem with the Father. But who's going to be the scapegoat? It's going to be Moses and Aaron, right? All right. Moreover, you have not brought us into a land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us inheritance of the fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up. And Moses was very angry and said to Yahuah, it's above me now. Do not respect their offerings. I have not taken one donkey from them, and I have not harmed one of them. And Moses said to Korah, be present, you and all your company before Yahuah, you and they and Aaron tomorrow. And let every one of you take his censer and put incense on it. And every one of you bring before Yahuah his censer. 250 censers you also, and Aaron each his censer. So every man took his censer and put fire in it and laid incense on them and stood at the entrance of the tent of meeting with Moses and Aaron. Then Korah assembled all the congregation against them at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and the esteem of Yahuah appeared to the congregation. Now here where it gets interesting here. Because Yahuah wasn't going to have none of it. It ain't no let me think about it. And Yahuah spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in the moment. So right there, he was saying, look, I ain't going to fool with it. I ain't got to ask nobody. We ain't got to talk about it. Let me just go ahead and get rid of everybody. Yeah, he going to get rid of everybody. Everybody. That means everybody.
Because of the leadership level.
Yes. So here we go.
What was the point of putting the things in their censers? So when we think about it, we think about the censer. Later on, we read in Tehillim, Psalms, and in Revelations, it talks about their prayers and things like that. It's a picture, if you will, of their prayers or their petitions going before the Father in the form of a censer. And he's going to, out of this, he's going to show who he chose within these censers, which, as you were stating earlier with this rebellion, is a lot of us have our censers before the Father and thinking that he's chosen all of us, and there's certain things that we have to realize or recognize that certain censors might need to be muted, if you will, and certain censors need to go forth, but sometimes we go against one another, and this is like a picture of all of us saying, well, who's right and who's wrong? But simply putting here, I'm just stating that, they really need to understand that these censors is a representation of you going before the Father.
Hallelujah. And they fell on their faces and said, O Elohim, the Elohim of the spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and will you be angry with all the congregation? And Yahuah spoke to Moses, saying, say to the congregation, get away from the dwelling of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So he said, all right, let's go ahead and get away from these three right now. Then Moses rose and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, depart, please, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest you be swept away with all their sins. So they got away from the dwelling of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the door of their tent. See, now they want to come up and stand at the door of their tents because the names are being put and stuff. They want to see what's going on. Why are y'all talking about us, right? Together with their wives, their sons, and their little ones. And that's another point I want to make about persuasive words. Again, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, if your heart is not in the right place, not only can you be destroyed, but you can destroy people's lives around you. Innocent people, it doesn't have to be somebody that's actually agreeing with you, but people who are associated with you can get the same fate. Right? And Moses said, hereby you shall know that Yahuah has sent me to do all these works, and that it has not been of my own accord. If these men die as all men die, or if they are visited by the fate of all mankind, then Yahuah has not sent me. But if Yahuah creates something new, and the ground opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, and they go down alive into the shallows and they go down into Sheol, I lost my place. 33, I'm not at 33. But Yahuah creates something new, they go down alive in Sheol, then you shall know that these men have despised Yahuah. And as soon as he had finished speaking all these words, the ground under them split apart, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, with their households and all the people who belonged to Korah and all their goods. So they and all that belonged to them went down alive into Sheol, and the earth closed over them. And they perished from the midst of the assembly. And all of Israel who were around them fled at their cry, for they said, lest the earth swallow us up. And the fire came out from Yahuah and consumed the 250 men offering the incense. So, what do we take from that? Anybody? What's the general consensus there?
I apologize. Could you tell me the book that came from?
This was Numbers 16:1 through 35.
Okay. Thank you.
It's Korah's Rebellion. That's the ESV version. So somebody tell me what they got out of this. What's the gist of it as far as they're concerned?
Gossiping leads to destruction.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely leads to that's like being a busybody. Mind your own business. Follow the Father's words. Stay out of other people's business. Attend your own business. Don't get caught up in gossiping. It leads to death. It leads to like a moral deterioration, a spiritual deterioration, if you will. It can be.
Okay.
And what I got is don't think more highly of yourself than you are to, because we each got a role to play, but then we want to think we're better than what we are or more important than what we are. And figure that, well, I could do what he's doing or I could do what she's doing and I could do it better. But you weren't selected to do that particular work. So you get yourself in trouble when you step out of where you're supposed to be.
So in other words, everybody needs to play their part, right? Everybody needs to know their position, and that's what you need to do. Say that again. You want to say it in the mic? Huh? We can't hear you. I'm sorry.
There's a scripture that says, touch not my anointed, nor do my prophets no harm.
Mm-hmm. But what does that mean, though? I mean, what exactly would be the problem with that? What exactly does that mean? Don't touch my appointed ones. Do my prophets no harm. Like, what exactly does that mean?
Well, to me, these are men of Yah. These men are hearing from the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
And so because they are ahead, they are leaders, as long as they're speaking Torah, then I shouldn't have any word or I shouldn't have anything against what they say.
So like the sister said, you got to mind your own business, right?
And
All right.
display obedience.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. All right. So I think everybody got kind of somber when I was reading that. So let's switch gears a little bit. Let me ask the ladies. I'm gonna ask the men first. Describe in a couple words what is a helpmeet. I'm looking at you.
You said you asked the brothers?
I'm looking. Yeah. But I'm looking at Franz, so I want Franz to answer.
Oh.
The men. Yeah. Because Franz had a puzzled look on his face. He's gonna answer that. Huh? He's speaking for all the brothers. He's speaking for all the brothers. Go ahead.
A helper?
Yeah. Huh?
A helper?
A helper? What kind of helper?
Wait a minute. Say that again.
Y'all talking about conjugal visit.
Whatever kind of help I need.
I don't think they heard you say it.
So I said, whatever kind of help I need.
All right. So go ahead and ask one of the ladies that, since you got the mic in your hand. Here we go.
The question was, what is a helpmeet?
Yes.
A helpmeet is some woman that's going to love you, try to steer you in the right direction when you're not doing what the Father is telling you to do. So she's going to help you out and have your back, and you're supposed to have her back.
Put that last part on
So if I understand right, he said help me, and he's supposed to have her back. I thought the question was to help me.
I just had my head down. I just asked the question. All right. Okay.
Help me is someone who fills in all our missing gaps and supports what we do possess.
Okay.
Don't possess.
So in layman terms, to help me could be the man's strength in the fact that she can overcome his shortcomings. Is that safe to say?
We need some help.
Help me! You complete me.
I said
Is that what it is?
Tob.
Tove. All right. So we got a couple little definitions here. The age 5049 we have Nagad. It's the opposite toward. 5048 is Nagad. You see a theme here. It's opposite, a counterpart, a mate. Yeah, the 5046 we have Nagad. We have Nagad, and that's a root word. So it's stamboling out opposite. All right, to manifest, to announce, always by word of mouth to one present, to expose, to predict, to explain, to praise. And I want everybody to remember those right there. Right? To expose, to predict, and explain. Because we're going to read another story. We're going to see if that pertains to that. Okay? Then we have the 5047, which is Nagad, is to follow through the idea of clearing the way or clearing an issue. So keep that in mind, right? And we got a little scripture here. Wives, submit to your own husbands as to Yahuah, for the husband is the head of the wife, even as Mashiach is the head of the assembly, his body, and is himself its savior. Now, as the assembly submits to the Mashiach, so also wives should submit in everything to their husbands. All right? Keep all of that in mind once we read this next story, and then we'll get up out of here. This is the story of Nabal and Abigail. Does everybody remember this story?
Yeah.
I think this is going to explain a lot, all right? So we're just going to go ahead and read this pretty quickly. Then David rose and went down to the wilderness of Paran. And there was a man in my home whose business was in Carmel. The man was very rich. He had 3,000 sheep and 1,000 goats. He was shearing his sheep in Carmel. Now the name of the man was Nabal, and the name of his wife was Abigail. The woman was discerning and beautiful, but the man was harsh and badly behaved. He was a Calebite. Let me tell you about them Calebs, boy. Man. David heard in the wilderness that Nabal was shearing his sheep. So David sent 10 young men, and David said to the young men, "Go up to Carmel and go to Nabal and greet him in my name. And thus you shall greet him. Peace or shalom be to you, and peace or shalom be to your house, and peace and shalom be to all that you have. I hear that you have shearers. Now your shepherds have been with us, and we did them no harm. And they missed nothing all the time they were in Carmel. And ask your young men, and they will tell you. Therefore, let my young men find favor in your eyes, for we come on a feast day. Please give whatever you have at hand to your servants and to your son David." All right. So when David's young men came, they said all of this to Nabal in the name of David. And then they waited. And Nabal answered David's servants, "Who is David?
All right now.
Who is the son of Jesse?
Who is this?
Who is this man at my door? There are many servants these days who are breaking away from their masters." He's trying to say, I don't know who David is, and I don't know who you are. You can just be anybody off the trees, is what he's trying to say, all right? "Shall I take my bread and my water and my meat that I have killed for my shearers and give it to the men who come from I don't know where?" So David's young men turned away and came back and told him all this. And David said to his men, 50, get the strap. Oh, my fault. Every man strap on his sword. My bad. I was thinking about something else. And every man of them strapped on his sword. David also strapped on his sword. And about 400 men went up after David with 200 hundred remain with the baggage. So he about, okay, so since you don't want to repay me with kindness like I did you, I'm about to take you out. All right. But one of the young men told Abigail, here we go, this is part of the story. One of the men told Abigail, Nabal's wife, behold, David sent messengers out of the wilderness to greet our master, and he railed at them. Yet the men were very good to us, and we suffered no harm. And we did not miss anything when we were in the fields, as long as we went with them. They were a wall to us both by night and by day. And all the while we were with them, keeping the sheep. Now therefore know this and consider what you should do. For harm is determined against our master and against all his house. And he is such a worthless man that one cannot speak to him. So you're trying to say, I can't tell him none of this. I got to tell you because he ain't going to listen to what we're trying to say. David about to come and kill everybody. All right? So then Abigail made haste and took 200 loaves and 2 skins of wine and 5 sheep already prepared and 5 sheets of parched grain and 100 clusters of raisins and 200 cakes of figs and laid them on the donkeys. And she said to her young men, go on before me, but behold, I come after you. But she did not tell her husband the ball. And as she rode on the donkey and came down under the cover of the mountain, behold, David and his men came down toward her, and she met them. Now David had said, surely in vain have I guarded all that this fellow has in the wilderness. He's saying, I shouldn't even watched over nothing. So that nothing was missed all that belonged to him. And he has returned me evil for good. Elohim do so to the enemies of David, and more also, if by morning I leave so much as one male of all who belong to him. So like God says, he's going to kill everybody. All right? Man was mad. All right, so when Abigail saw David, she heard and got down from the donkey and fell before David on her face and bowed to the ground. She fell at his feet and said, on me alone, my sovereign, be the guilt. Please let your servant speak in your ears and hear the words of your servant. Let that my sovereign regard this worthless fellow Nabal, for as his name is, so is he. She's saying that's what his name is. He evil. Nabal is his name and folly is with him. So Nabal is his name and folly is his game. But I, your servant, did not see the young men of my sovereign, whom you sent. Now then, my sovereign, as Yahuah lives and as your soul lives, because Yahuah has restrained you from blood guilt and from saving with your own hand, now then let your enemies and those who seek to do evil to my sovereign be as Nabal. And now let this present that your servant has brought to my sovereign be given to the young men who follow my sovereign. Please forgive the trespass of your servant, for Yahuah Elohim will certainly make my sovereign a sure house, because my sovereign is fighting the battles of Yahuah, and evil shall not be found in you so long as you live. So she's trying to cool down the situation, right? Because she knows what's about to come. All right. So if men rise up to pursue you and seek your life, the life of my sovereign shall be bound in the bundle of the living in the care of Yahuah Elohim. And the lives of your enemies he shall sling out as from the hollow of a sling. And when Yahuah has done to my sovereign according to all the good that has spoken concerning you and has appointed you prince over Israel, my sovereign shall have no cause of grief or pangs of conscience for having shed blood without cause, or for my sovereign working salvation amongst himself. So she was saying, you ain't got to do all this, kill somebody because you're angry. Let me go ahead and just give you what you want, so you won't do nothing, right? And have that guilt on his hands. All right. And when Yahuah has dealt well with my sovereign, then remember your servant. And David said to Abigail, blessed be Yahuah, the Elohim of Israel, who sent you this day to meet me. Blessed be your discretion, and blessed be you who have kept me this day from blood guilt and from working salvation with my own hands. So he said, okay, if it wouldn't be for you, everybody would be dead right now. It's basically what he's saying. For as surely as Yahuah, the Elohim of Israel, lives, who has restrained me from hurting you, unless you had heard and come to meet me, Truly by morning there had not been left to Nabal so much as one male. Then David received from her hand what she brought him, and he said to her, Go up in shalom to your house. See how I have obeyed your voice, and I have granted your petition. I got a point coming. All right. And Abigail came to Nabal, and behold, he was holding a feast in his house. So all that stuff he said he wasn't going to get nobody. Now here he is eating and drinking. Like the feast of a king, and Nabal's heart was merry within him, for he was very drunk. So she told him nothing at all until the morning light. In the morning, when the wine had gone out of Nabal, his wife told him these things, and his heart died with him, and he became as a stone. And about 10 days later, Yahuah struck Nabal, and he died. All right. So I hope y'all's paying attention. So my first question is, did Abigail prove to be a helpmeet in this situation? Yes. Tell me how. Anybody tell me how? By any of those right there. You point someone out that she did that is up there.
So the first one it says.
You need a mic?
No.
You need a mic?
No, I got it.
Huh? You need a mic.
So
Spark that mic.
when it says opposite on the first one, does that 50-49? It's basically saying that they're standing face to face, and she could see what's behind him, and he could see what's behind her. And so she was being a helpmeet by trying to save him through his ignorance.
Hallelujah. Anybody else? Yo, go.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead.
What about 50-47? I mean, she cleared a way. She cleared a pathway.
She cleared up that issue that they were having, right?
I'm sorry?
Said she cleared up the issue they were having, right?
Yeah, absolutely. She tried to clear it so that there was no more bloodshed. So that would be 547 through the idea of clearing the way, issues. So I think that's exactly what she did.
What about age 50-46? Is there anything in there that she did?
Just stand boldly out opposite. So she was doing the opposite of what her husband was doing, to stand boldly. So that's exactly also, thank you, Maury. She was standing boldly against, the opposite of what her husband was doing, because had she not did that, then that would not be one man standing, because David was going to kill everybody.
I see her doing in 46. She was like a messenger. She looked at the situation. She made some decisions that will keep everybody at peace, keep from David being what he was going to do to her ex-husband, her husband. She made a sound decision. So that's as far as the helpmate, she was given, although he was kind of not a good person, she had some reason where she kept him alive. It was the father who killed him.
Yeah, we also got to consider a couple of things. One is, that because she's operating in her calling or in her place in righteousness, that she was able to preserve or help preserve him, even though the father wound up struck him anyway. But the other part to look at is that even after she did that, she still went back to him to let him know what she did. Okay, so again, it wasn't like she operated on her. It wasn't like she, did something behind his back. He went to him and shared with him basically what has happened, and because of that, how everything was preserved through what she has done. So I guess in light of that, is just to say that when he operated a certain way, notice that he really didn't care, not just for himself, but he didn't care for nobody around him.
Right.
So she recognized that the disobedience of her ish and how it would have caused everybody harm. She took action so that things can be done in righteousness. And that's what a true helpmate is for, is to be there to help in certain situations. But again, remember, David went to him first, right? Not to her, went to him. And he denied, David, which is his sovereign. And so therefore, because of that, David was ready to come and just kill everybody. I mean, David had some had a bloody hand. So if you think about it, all the other men that were there, they're like, look, I wouldn't have said no. So everybody there is going to die, all because of their masters being stubborn and stiff necked and things like that.
You kind of answered my other question.
So everything that you're saying, Maury, that's 5. She worked in the opposite because her husband was going completely in the opposite direction. So she was working in the opposite for the good, not only for her husband, but for the good to preserving the lives of the men.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that kind of leads into my other question. Did she disobey her ish's or husband's authority in any way?
Well, she didn't find out by him. She found out through the servants what had happened. So he basically kept her in the dark, without discussing it with her. Hey, David came up, he sent his servants, and this is what was requested. He didn't say nothing to her. She found out through the servants, so he basically kept her in the dark, which isn't a good thing anyways.
Anybody else? All right, so my short answer would be that Nabal was acting evil in not repaying for the services that David and his men did for him and his shepherds. Abigail acted in righteousness because she recognized the danger in not repaying the kindness that David had shown. She knew that if she didn't step in, David would have killed Nabal and everyone and everything attached to his name. So in context of this story, we can see that Abigail was truly acting as Nabal's strength as his helpmeet. All right, and I got the little scripture there, and Yahuah said, "It is not good that a man should be alone. I will make him and help me for him." All right. Any questions pertaining to this lesson?
Did you say the book that it came
Oh, it was 1 Samuel 2 through 25, I do believe. 20. Wait. Yeah.
Chapter 25. Yeah.
Yeah. Chapter 25. Yeah, my bad. So, any questions? Now?
Well, it's good to have a helpmate. If one person is not thinking right, then you have the other person that should be thinking right to help balance everything, to avoid conflict. In other words, somebody's got to be thinking when the other person isn't thinking.
Hallelujah. All right, if all hearts and minds are clear, we can stand and close.
Thank you, Maury. Thank you very much for this lesson. I really did enjoy it. Thank you.
Hallelujah. Caleb, you want to close us out? Appreciate it.
Father, thank you. Is it on? Can y'all hear me? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Father, thank you for today. Thank you for this lesson that we had. Hopefully the message will resonate with everyone, that it'll help us in our walk. Father, continue to keep us through the work week and through the rest of our week. Ask that that you bless you for the food that we're about to receive, and that for the rest of our week we continue to study. In your name we pray. Amen.
Hallelujah from the land. Hallelujah.
Let you win the land, Lord.